Hi, everyone. Welcome to this interactive media music panel. My name is Eric Gersen, and I'm very excited to talk to these incredibly talented composers about some of their recent work. So let's just welcome me in joining our panelists. First up, we have the World Soundtrack Awards contending composer of Tactical Breach Wizards. Please welcome Robert Arzola.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Next, we have the World Soundtrack Awards contending composer Freya Berkhout.
Hello, lovely to be here.
And last but certainly not least,
Hello.
we have the Guild Wars 2 Expansion 6 composer Bryan Atkinson.
Hey, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, so let's just dive into it. Got a few questions. First one's just for everyone. To get us started, curious what is your starting point when composing for a game or a piece of interactive media? Do you focus on the story? Do you kind of get a sense of the visuals first? Do you play the game and kind of go from there, or is it something else? How do you really get started with your pieces?
When I'm composing, I do best when I have a visual video or something to compose along with, just extra visually inspired. I think most composers are, but especially for me, I find that having concept art or gameplay footage just really helps kind of direct me in what to do, and obviously in collaboration with the audio team on kind of what the tone is. I'm not shooting in the dark, but that combined with the visuals, it makes starting a score and choosing instruments for my template and kind of dreaming about cool sounds just a lot easier. But I also just like I can do whatever too. I can compose to just a written brief or just like a story arc as well.
Freya, what about you? Is it similar? Or?
I'm kind of story driven and world driven. So like I worked on a medieval horror game a couple of years ago, and that was like what we were working alongside the developer. So we didn't have that much visual stimulus. So it was much more about like what is this world that we're creating and how do we capture like what the story arc is going to do, obviously, but something really interesting. So I was sort of working in a space of like basically writing a little library that felt like it existed inside that world. So it was, yeah, much more about sort of mapping the sonic landscape than anything too specific and bespoke at the beginning. So I really like just being able to sort of get into that sonic headspace and find the thing that feels like what the identity of it is and how I'm going to like that. It sort of feels like a musical manifesto, and you sort of tease out the threads from that tapestry as you move forward. You've got like an idea of where it exists, and then from there you're like, okay, cool, all the seeds are planted and I'm just like taking little bits from what I've created at the beginning.
Very cool. In that experience, did any of your music kind of inspire the visuals, or was it still like a separate?
Oh, that's such a good question. Do you know what? It probably did. There were a lot of vocals in it. So I think the film is about a guy whose wife dies and he has to go to the underworld. It's kind of similar to Hades, actually, but it's very different visually. But he has to go to the underworld to try and get her back. And so the vocals, I think, probably helped with how he was visualizing the wife. I think there were ways that spoke to how he was experiencing this grief. And I have actually should have like a proper chat about how that back and forth went. But I do think doing that kind of work early on makes for like a permeable boundary between the creator and the composer. And I think that can be like a really beautiful exchange.
And Robert, what about you?
Out of all of it, I guess the answer is yes. I do like having the visual if I can get it. Storyline, if I can get like a script or something or a brief of what someone is looking for, that also helps, or a mix of both. I've had to work with a bit of every direction, and for me, having the visuals is probably the best way to go, especially for something like Tactical Breach Wizards. Having some gameplay, some visual to work with was ideal. Even though we were still at times trying to figure out the sonic identity, was still good to have something to see, something to play, launch someone out of a window and go from there.
Great. So it's really dependent on whatever the situation is, and you can.
Yeah, pretty
you're
much
all
for me.
you're all talented enough to roll with anything. Great. Next question actually is back to Robert. So you've worked in various genres, right? You've jazz, reggae, orchestral, familiar with synths and all that stuff. How did you decide what sound belonged where, and what was there any point Was there a point in any where any unexpected genre kind of clicked for a scene that you weren't expecting?
Um, I guess I'll go backwards. The unexpected was the jazz noir type of deal.
Hmm.
I don't even remember why it came up. I think I wanted to try something a bit different for one area, and we talked about maybe something a little jazzy. But what I ended up writing was something very noir sounding, because I don't write jazz. I don't write jazz at all.
Oh, interesting.
So this was like my first real attempt at it. And when it was done, I was told by Tom Francis, the head of the game, that there was a heated debate on where the heck they were going to put this because they loved it. It didn't fit what they were looking, but they wanted a spot for it, and it ended up being used as the Necromedics theme,
Oh, cool.
and ended up being like a big thing for the game. But for everything else, it was just back and forth with Tom going over different, like a good back and forth, I should say, going over different ideas, different approaches, whether it was the reggae tone, something that's more choral and church-like and stuff like that, and going over different influences. Like I would bring up some ideas from inspirations and whatnot. So it was all about just finding what fit the area best.
Um, you mentioned inspirations. Is there anything specific that you remember?
I'm a big fan of war video games, specifically the older Call of Duty side.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that tone, and it really like just has stuck with me even what 10, 15 years later.
Cool.
Robert, I just
Great.
wanted to say I looked you up before this and I really enjoyed what I heard from Tactical Breach Wizards. It had like, yeah, this kind of retro-y, if I can use that word, like James Bond heisty vibe, and the jazz thing seemed seamless. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be talking with a jazz expert. Like it really did convince me. So nice job.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I love all the music when it comes to Guild Wars, so
Oh, thanks,
I'm
man.
happy to be here with you.
All right. Appreciate that.
Cool. All right, we got another general question for everyone. How do you balance originality with familiarity when it comes to composing music that players or users might hear for hours on end? Like if you're have to write music for a fire world, obviously you want to make it sound familiar with different elements, but you also want to put your specific creative stamp on it. Curious how you go about doing that, if there is any uh
Sure.
special way of doing that. Yeah, Brian, if you
I
have.
can, yeah, I can start us off with some maybe fun anecdotes. With Guild Wars, the last two expansions have been a different sort of subgenre of the fantasy realm. So we had End of Dragons, which was Canther, and it was kind of like this Korean inspired Gugok world. And then we had Soto, Secrets of the Obscure, which was more fleshy, demon, wizard, orchestrally kind of thing. And then Janther Wilds was Viking folk, which was really fun, Nordic kind of Viking action adventure. And then this one, as the announced trailer has revealed, is a bit more nautical and pirate-esque, perhaps, Castaway and Island, and a bit tropical. So that's been helpful to sort of keep in the Guild Wars vein, which is largely an orchestral tradition, but throw in unusual and fun instruments for each expansion. So in that way, it's not super hard, but it's still really fun. It's just mainly fun to kind of brainstorm with what the different instruments could be and different things like that.
Yeah, for like the nautical theme, like did you just start out with sea shanty kind of things? Did you go with accordions and
Yeah,
stuff like that for
exactly. Sea Shanty was a pitch from the studio, kind of having some of the music reflect the intimacy of solo instruments used in a sea shanty, and then taking those and extrapolating them for combat. But especially for ambient, had a lot of fun with, yeah, like viola especially. I wanted to lean more into viola because I love that, and yeah, penny whistle, bodhrán, unusual kind of percussion, anklungs, just kind of like seed shakers, which we used for Janther Wilds as well. Like it kind of has that tribal element, but also great for Island and whatnot. Also downloaded some specific Hawaiian percussion samples just to throw that in.
Yeah, I think you're always like pushing out to find the limits of what that world can be in terms of the genres. So I think you are looking for novelty, like for this medieval horror game, it really did have a particular sound. So I think that felt a lot more like we need to, you're obviously writing in a modular way when you're working on interactive projects. And for us, it was making sure that there was enough meditative music that you could sit with it and it didn't feel like it got boring, like it was sort of moving with you. It also has like themes that get more and more intense as you get into these like darker environments. So we're very much moving with the visuals, which I think helps. I mean, like we really want you to feel quite, it's scary. It's genuinely scary. I mean, it's medieval horror. It's meant to be. So a lot of it was just intensifying every cue. That was how we were sort of moving in a certain direction. So you're always like on this trajectory, and it's getting more and more intense as you go. So I think that helps with like it feeling novel, but it definitely sat with the same kinds of instruments. So it's not the same as what Bryan was talking about. It's sort of sitting with a certain kind of sonic instrumentation, which was a lot of like synthy stuff and vocals and some drummy like percussive elements, but really like trying to just take those to an extreme.
Curious, this is a little like in the woods, but like harmonically speaking, were you inspired by medieval like progressions or anything like that? Like that?
Definitely
really,
sitting with some like simpler, almost like Gregorian style stuff, especially with the vocals, because I mean, it has this ethereal feeling too. Obviously, that's like the wife's voice. So for me, that, I mean, as a professional vocalist, like that's my most expressive instrument and it always will be. But yeah, trying to sit with like some of those interesting, like modal type chanting so that we're trying to capture that ye olde vibe. And it's really cold, like it feels cold, almost like concretey, like you need to capture the environment as well through that. So yeah, it was very much about finding those right. Mostly just about the intonation, how you're moving. Yep.
Cool. And Robert, what about you?
For me, it was just trying to keep something, a common thread in some way, shape, or form, whether it's just an instrumental choice, like having a violin in this one track or something, or try to keep the vibes. That way there's some connection. But I know something I really try to do is just have the main theme in the track somewhere. Even if you don't really notice it right away, it's in there somewhere, whether it's in the lead or as an ostinato or as something in the background or something. Winifred Phillips wrote a book. I forget the name of the book. It's driving me nuts, but I read it years ago. And when I was writing the music for Tactical Breach with it, I was thinking about the chapters out of nowhere. I'm thinking, oh yeah, those are really good developmental ideas of the theme that you could use everywhere. So I just thought that's a good common thread. Even if I'm going to Gregorian in the chapel in Tactical Breach with, or the reggae, or in some way, shape, or form, find a way to put that thread in there.
Sure. Yeah, it's like the theme is a character, then when you warp the theme, you're kind of able to, you get a sense of what the character is feeling when you're warping that theme for different environments.
Yeah, you're still in that world, even though you're in a different country or in a different setting. It's like, oh shoot, we're still in this war type of world here. We're still trying to keep things going, even if things get funny and lighthearted.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that, Robert. That's a cool idea of putting the main theme wherever you can, with obviously tastefully, not overdoing it. That's something I had fun with in this recent expansion too. Just, even if it's just in a bass clarinet and it's kind of like half the theme. I'd like to think people pick up on it. Maybe it's just me, but it's really fun.
Is there a specific track that someone can listen to?
There will be coming out in October. Yeah, unfortunately
coming out in October.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah.
All right. It's coming soon. What about you, Robert? Is there a specific?
I can't think of anything right off the top of my mind because I just have all the different tracks playing in my head. Sometimes it's just like when you listen to just various things, especially in middle, I think that's Act 2, and you'll hear different parts of like ostinati and stuff in the background where you'll hear da 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 and stuff like that, things like that, little snippets here and there.
Yeah, and I don't exactly know. I'm sure some people listening or watching this are musicians, but in case there are people who aren't musicians, can you just define ostinato really quickly?
It's more like how do I say this? It's like a rhythmic passage, usually like for strings, or for me, I like using it for synths.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of a repetitive pattern that keeps a motor going on. Some people like to have more movement. Some people are more static and one note. I like to do a mix of both. Hopefully that makes sense.
Great. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like the Duel of
Um,
the Fates. Dun 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 dun. Dun. That's
Yes.
yeah,
like a
yes. It's a
basic
great
example.
example.
Yeah.
Cool, great. All right, next one's for Freya. So you're not only a composer, but you're also a creative technologist. Is that correct?
Indeed, yes.
So how did you get into that work, and how does it connect with your music for your projects?
So I did a master's in computational arts in London when I lived there, and I was really interested in adding programming to my practice. I was just like, I think these are tools that are going to be relevant in the future, and I really want to understand my sound practice with programming as part of that. So I went through an academic route, but I was kind of making entire installations at that time. Like I was doing, all of the programming and physical computing. And then a few years after I finished that, I was working on projects and being like, you know what? I think I just want to do the sound part of this. And it's been such a joy. Like I've worked on some really interesting projects. Actually, when I still lived in Australia, I was working on projects with the Australian Museum. So like, LED cubes that travel the country that have like an interactive score. So when people show up to like hear this story, it was about Australian birds. It was a celebration of Australian birds. So there's a 13-minute score, but there's also an interactive element where people show up with their phones and it pops on, use a QR code, and it pops on and it has little musical sections. And I've worked on projects where they're in a space and they're tracking the people in there, and that triggers different musical ideas, usually from a source. So it's often random. I'm happy to this is actually similar to game music writing, but you have like a pool of ideas, and then you've written in such a modular way that you're happy for it to be random. What pops out when someone walks in, you're like, cool, a new sound is triggered and everything fits together, but you find these novel ways for it to manifest because you can't anticipate how all of the things would fit together until you're actually in the space. But for me, it's just been such an interesting way to advance my skill set and really push myself in terms of like the sorts of composing environments I'm working in. So, the way that I have to think is really different. I've worked on a lot of like immersive sound projects, so I can mix Dolby Atmos, and I love working in immersive sound. I think, when you start to put together like the pieces of your life, you realize like, oh, there's a through line here. And I think what I'm always looking for is an immersive experience. So I do that with film, or I do that with games, or I do that with interactive projects. And I think this has just been another manifestation of that. And I worked on a really cool project last year, actually, with British Columbia Tourism. It was an activation in Germany, which is where most of their tourists come from, apparently. And it was an interactive car wash. And it was basically like you drive in and the score plays on your radio frequency. So it goes onto your sound system. And it's like all projection mapped vistas of British Columbia. And it was so cool. Like, it's a
Wow.
really different way to write because you have like this overarching feeling. It's not bespoke in exactly the same way that film is. Film is a lot more rigid, whereas I feel like in interactive art projects, I'm in more of an art space. And I think as someone who came from a band background, like that also just satisfies the freer, more liberated part of me that doesn't want to be like structured by a story all the time. So it's just given me like different hats to wear and an opportunity to like explore things in a different way, which I think like I'm always looking for novelty. I don't want every day should be different for me. And I think it's just been nice to, yeah, have these other skills that take me into different sectors of the industry. And it's quite separated from film as well, which is mostly where I spend my time. So it's kind of interesting to exist in these different worlds. Like in interactive projects, programmers are like terrified of sound. They're like, oh my God, sound is so complicated. How do you do it? And I'm like, it's just so weird to me because it's in my bones. But it's really nice to be able to, collaborate with people like that who just think in such a different way. I feel like my music manifests differently because of it.
That's so beautiful. Do you have any like specific inspirations? Are there any artists that are your inspiration? If you pursued it, seems like you pursued it actively earlier in your
Yeah.
career. Like who inspired you?
Julian Oliver is an amazing, actually, I think he's a Kiwi, but he lives in
Hmm.
Germany. He does really interesting, like, political projects. So I always found him really interesting. And Ars Electronica is like the biggest festival in the world that does interactive projects. So the people that go there are just doing like such incredible work. But Lynette Walworth is actually an artist that I really admire in that space. And she's Australian, but she's had like huge success overseas. So she's someone who's always made like work about, Brazilian like female shamans or projects in Australia where they're talking like she made a VR project about a nuclear disaster in Australia back in, I think, maybe the 60s, and just does these really beautiful, interactive, like immersive experiences that truly like take you into the world that she's exploring. So yeah, there are a few people that really stand out in that space. Lynette is one of those.
Cool. That's great. All right, next is another general one for everyone. Can you all talk about a moment on an interactive media project where an unexpected choice changed the direction of a scene or gameplay action? It's a very specific question. Robert, do you have anything?
Other than the jazz one,
Yeah,
because that kind of answers that one, because that changed a lot. Going back, I guess the trail. I have a trailer music background,
Oh, cool.
at least in this industry, and bringing that. It wasn't expected, I guess, of me to bring that. When I brought this huge drum forward type of thing, sometimes it did change, I guess, the overall mood of what the music was going to be to something more serious that goes against the comedy sometimes to help
Yeah,
that stick out some more and bringing some of that serious nature.
right. The
So,
juxtaposition of insanely intense with some comedic
yes,
visuals can
pretty
help.
much.
Yeah, what about Freya? Do you have any examples?
I do actually. I have a really interesting one. So I mentioned that Birds of Australia project that I worked on, which is an LED cube that was traveling around Australia for 2 years. And a lot of what I was doing in that was using real recordings of birds from specific areas to build in stories about those birds. And we had to be really careful because we weren't allowed to use birds that would be in the place that the LED cube would end up. There was a story that, from a previous project with this company, where they'd done an installation in a tree of a kookaburra, and there was a baby kookaburra recording in that installation, and an adult kookaburra came to the tree when it was installed, and it was worried about this baby kookaburra being on its own. So there were like real world natural issues that we had to think about. Like, we didn't want to concern the local bird population basically, because we were using their communication as part of this artistic process. So I had to be really particular about, I had like a list of things that I was and wasn't allowed to use for certain parts of the project. So that was like a really strange way to be sort of artistically dictated, but also mattered deeply to us to like honor the environment properly so that it didn't cause any human problems.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
what about you, Brian? Do you have any examples?
Sure. Perhaps. Yeah, that's a fascinating story, Freya. I was on the edge of my seat with that. I'm like, birds. Okay, this is
I
fantastic.
know.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I think for me, some of the projects I've been doing the last few years, they've come to me with a bit of a brief, with a bit of a direction. I did an anime pilot that wanted kind of an 80s Magic Sword, rock orchestral, Two Steps from Hell kind of vibe, and we sort of worked together to create that. So in that sense, nothing too off the wall as far as, oh hey, let's go this completely different direction and see how people respond. But with Guild Wars, it's been towing the line with different things. For instance, there's a track in this upcoming expansion soundtrack where there's the magic island, and then there's this magic like coast and island kind of and foresty combination. And I did a track that had some woodwinds, and the reaction from the studio was, hey, this sounds kind of Incan, this sounds a bit Mesoamerican, like we're on an Incan adventure here. So how can we tone this in a different direction where it feels ancient, it feels islandy, foresty, but kind of in the Guild Wars lore, in the Tyria lore, So it really wasn't too hard practically, but it was just a fun challenge to kind of say, okay, let's just move away from melody and harmony, which is kind of my go-to, and let's focus on rhythm. And so leaning more into hand pans actually, which was a lot of fun, which is kind of a, the hand pan is like the inverted steel drum sound, and it's just really peaceful and calming, but also it works cinematically as well and kind of creates a fun vibe. So that was just an example of, trying not to go into a territory where it could sound like something too familiar in a different genre or in the world in which we live in, existing in a certain country.
With the handpan, did you use an actual handpan, or were you using virtual instruments for
It was
that?
actually both. Yeah, I met an awesome handpan player. Shout out to Aiden Lopresti. We met at GDC, and he laid down some live. Actually, in this track, I'm thinking of his kind of like improvisatory melodies really made the track. So it was really cool. But yeah, also there's some great handpan libraries out there as well.
Cool. That's I'll have to get them from you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and then we're gonna stay on Bryan for a little bit. So with this new
Okay.
expansion coming out in October,
In October.
um, can you give us a little teaser for what players can expect for the music? You kind of already did with the nautical stuff, but is there anything specific you might be able
Hmm.
to tease with?
Let's see. Well, I guess I'll give a hint at the main theme. It's rousing, it's adventurous. It's kind of a bit of a throwback to like Errol Flynn and just bravado and fun. So I think players will respond to that. Yeah, without giving too much away, it starts off actually with a fanfare. With a lot of the other themes, which are amazing themes written by like McLean Deemer and whatnot. Maybe start with a bit more of a build, but this one it's out the gate kind of a heroic fanfare. So that was fun just to kind of take. I guess that might be an example of something more potentially risky that I pitched to the studio, and they're like, "Cool, let's go for it." But otherwise, yeah, it's a fun blend of nautical, sea shanty, sort of James Cameron Avatar-esque, but with like more of a tropical flair. So I think it'll be really fun.
This is the one I'm very excited for. What tools or software were essential in bringing your compositions to life within the game engine or project? Like, what's your whole setup? What programs do you use? I feel like everyone's setup's a little different. Robert, let's start with you.
Should I start with the thing that I can't live without, or?
Yeah, sure.
So, all of Tactical Breach Wizards, and I guess every project I've ever done has been on headphones. And because I would move around a lot and everything. And right now, these Slate VSX
That's what I got. That's
There
what
you
I'm
go.
wearing. Yeah.
Cannot live without those.
Oh,
I'm
so
also
good.
a
Yeah.
music supervisor for a trailer music library. So every note I give is based on listening to this stuff through these.
And
They're
do you do the
amazing.
whole like you do you try the different rooms out with
Yes,
when you're
I try the
mixing? Yeah.
different rooms out. I have my favorite though.
What's your
Uh,
favorite? What's your favorite?
Oh God, let me open it. I'm using it right now. So,
Is it
uh,
one of the studios? Or
Steven's Mix Room.
Steven's mixed room. Yeah.
That one is badass.
Yeah,
For
why-
everything I do.
Why mess
Uh,
with the best, right?
Oh yeah.
It's cool to hear
I'm a
some
big
feedback
Logic
about
guy.
those headphones because I was considering the technology of it. This is the room emulation simulation kind of technology. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
very fun.
honestly did not buy into it, but then I thought I should give it a shot. And when I bought it, it was the best decision I think I made as a composer when it comes to gear.
That's
I-
really
wow.
that's really nice to hear because I bought it after being inundated with the ads on Instagram, and I was like, all right, I'll
The
try it.
algorithm knows.
The algorithm just got me. Right, and so that's good to hear with the headphones. In terms of software, is there anything? Are there like what DAW do you tend to use or?
I'm a Logic guy. Can't I tried other things, I just keep going back. I'm a big audio bro, library guy, stuff like that. Sound Iron's creeping in, same with Spitfire. Um Plugin wise, this might surprise some people. I am big on Black Hole for a lot of things.
Eventide.
simplicity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Eventide's great. Love their reverbs.
I use it way too much in almost every way I can. And Simplicity's classic reverbs. Those are probably the best reverbs I've ever used for any project.
This is great. Freya, what about you? What's your whole setup?
I'm a Pro Tools kid because I come from a band background, but for better or worse, I'm
Impressed.
still with Avid. I do so much post-processing. Like I'm a vocalist and I use analog synths. So for me, like it being audio, it just makes sense. When I'm working on game stuff, I'll do things in Unity as well. I've also, for interactive projects, I'm often using Max MSP because I just like the graphical programming of that. And for interactive, you really need like to be able to look at what the inputs are doing at any given time. For immersive audio, I've been using Spat Revolutions, which is great. You actually can't use that in Pro Tools because it's free and not proprietary, like it's available to anyone. So Avid is like, no, you don't pay for it. So we won't let you use this plugin. So I actually have to use Reaper when I'm doing that, which Reaper is great. Like I kind of wish I was like more committed to Reaper, but I'm so used to my Pro Tools setup. But yeah, Spat Revolutions was really good. I was actually using my phone. If I can get away from a screen, especially for interactive projects, I will do that because obviously so much is screen based. So I was actually, when I was working on one of the interactive projects I was doing, I actually used a like an app on my phone that was it was basically mapping the quaternions. So I was writing the automation of each track using the angles of my phone, which was really cool because it just allowed me to like move around the space and move my phone. And that's what the like a lot of vocal layers basically were doing to not make you seasick. Obviously, I needed to like find a happy medium between those things. But yeah, I love to be able to get away from like writing automation with like a tiny little, mouse pencil wherever I can do that. So Spat was great for that. And this, yeah, it must have been like a gyroscope app that I got, I think, for that one. I can't remember what it was called. That was a few years ago now. But yeah, I'm pretty much do as much as I can in Pro Tools just because it's my like comfort place. And then for moving to interactive, I'll go to those other programs.
Cool.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
that's
really
crazy, Max.
Yeah,
Max
it's
is
fun.
cool.
I just try so many things. Yeah, Max is a bit unruly at times. I've definitely like gone down the rabbit hole, and it's really powerful, but it's also, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
No, more power to you.
Yeah, I know.
That's good.
Touched it in college and I got scared and haven't touched it since. So
I mean, I was doing
here.
a computer science degree,
Yeah,
so
I guess so,
like
yeah.
I was doing like actual programming, so Max felt like more comfortable
Right.
because I'd come from a band background, and I'm like, oh, I can see what the pieces are doing. Like it feels like signal flow because it's literally doing what you're used to doing, like plugging into amps and things like that. So it feels like more digestible as a musician, I think. Whereas like programming with just letters is a different way of thinking that I have learned and I don't love. My brain is not made for that.
For sure. Oh, that's very impressive. And Bryan, what about you? What's your setup?
Sure, yeah. I'll give you some generals and then one specific for this expansion that I use a lot. But I'm a Cubase guy. I was digital performer actually for 12 years, and it was great. But then Cubase allowed me to do things in my workflow, especially musical sound design. Just being able to quickly edit tracks and plugins quickly has been great. But the Eventide bundle, I forget what it's called, but yeah, a bunch of Eventide plugins, sound toys. Those are definitely go-to. Decapitator, Crystallizer. The Valhalla Vintage Verb I use way too much.
Oh.
It's amazing. And let's see, plugin wise, I use a lot of Cinematic Studio Series, Pacific strings from Performance Samples. I like that. I've kind of just combined different libraries these days to make patches. Like Marcato patches are a mixture of like 3 libraries now. And I've been also getting into more like string runs. Hollywood Strings actually has some very powerful articulations, even though it's an older library in the staccato realm. So like the staccato slurs, if you double those with like some different staccato articulations, it's actually a very powerful way to get realistic runs without having to use run libraries. And so it's anyway, just a specific example there. But yeah, apart from plugins, I mean, I have the PreSonus just one fader port, which is great because I also don't like drawing automation or using my mouse obviously as little as possible. And that's why I'm in nature right now is to have a break. So I'm in Colorado. But yeah, having like my Sparrow MIDI faders for MIDI automation, and having the the thing you do buttons on, the shortcuts, I can't think of what that's called right now, where you do like the different shortcuts for whatever program. You can just hit the button instead of doing the key command. That's a great sign. But with the expansion coming up, I actually sampled like a large Pueblo bass drum I got on Facebook Marketplace. It's like about 3 feet across and has a really good boom to it. So I finally got around to deep sampling it with 2 microphones, and I used that a ton in this expansion. Doubled that with a lot of like, for instance, Drums of War from Contact. They're like June, I think that's how you say it, DJUIN, kind of like tribal drums. So yeah, a lot of those kind of unique recordings, the hand articulation, the beat articulation on this kind of epic Native American drum, I think worked pretty cool in this expansion. So excited to share that.
That's so cool. I also wanted to call out another sample. Like, I don't know if you guys know Slate and Ash. They're based out of Bristol.
Thank you for saying that.
I love their plugins so much. Cycles I've used so much lately, which is like the metal percussion, and also Primaries, which is like a really interesting strings library that they have. I just think their stuff is amazing. And as a person who comes from a band background and is always looking for like an experimental way to do things, I feel like so aligned with them aesthetically. Like their sounds are so interesting. So then they always feel at home with me, which is like such a joy to find something like that, a library, you know.
Thank you for sharing that, because I also just discovered Slade and Ash on this expansion, and their Spectres library was like exactly what I needed for organic, like seashore and forest pads that didn't feel like something from Omnisphere as much. You know what I'm saying? Where
Exactly.
so just
It's
had
less
these really nice,
commercial sounding.
Fantastic.
It's so cool talking to the three of you, because you're all such different composers and you have such different just different perspectives on composing, but obviously the products are top tier. Bryan, you had mentioned that you were a digital performer.
I was.
Was that So I guess I'm curious. Like Freya, you had said you're primarily a vocalist, right? That's what you said. What would you all consider your main instruments? Like Bryan, are you?
Oh, sure.
As a performer,
I'm a pianist. You know, I went through high school with a piano performance thing, and then I've just kept not amplifying that, but just using it and keeping it around, and composing on piano has been. I think without my, when I was 14 or whatever, practicing 2 hours a day for a year and a half there, not nearly as serious as many, but that was instrumental to me, just being able to sit down and improvise and whatnot. So I'm definitely grateful for my teacher back in the day.
Yeah. Robert, what about you? What would you consider your main instrument?
French horn player.
Really?
That's so cool.
I love French horn. Oh
so
my gosh,
hard.
It's my
so
favorite
hard.
instrument in the orchestra.
I was told it would get you scholarship money in college, and it did.
Congratulations, man. That's so cool.
So happy to hear that. Well, I'm a classically trained pianist, so I started when I was 4, and I did that all of my life, traumatized by music theory. But yeah, I started singing when I was 7, like in choirs, and I think that really taught me harmony. Like I was an alto. I have a soprano range, but I was an alto part, I think just because I was drawn to like more interesting harmonic structure. Yeah. And I feel like my harmony is so built on my experiences in choir, even though obviously as a pianist, like that's the instrument that I'm using all the time. But vocals for me are like, it's like who I am. It feels like it's my identity, So that finding that I think was really important. And then obviously I was doing like singer-songwriter stuff, because singing and piano feel like they go together.
Yeah.
Freya, I would love to hear your voice. I need to poke on your website and check that out.
Yeah, please do. There's lots of interesting vocals. It's it's like Björk meets Enya. I feel like that's where I tend to sit.
Even more excited now.
Very cool. Yeah. Good cross pitch. That's great. All right. And now just, is there a track or moment from either a recent project or really just like in your whole oeuvre that you're just most proud of, and why? Robert, let's start with you. It could be from anything current, or it could just be in your whole career.
Oh my goodness, I don't know. If anything, just the score for this game, honestly. Because I got it during COVID. It was in a rough time. And during that moment I was still learning. And I still really am, technically, though I hope the composers that I supervise don't hear that.
Always
you're always learning. Yeah.
Yep.
No, but like that was my first real bigger project, and that's something that I hope to build off of, and that's probably a lot where I get a lot of the pride from, as well as, I guess, my day job as a supervisor. Yeah. I take care of composers. I tell them how to approach different aspects and the albums that we get out and everything. Those are always prideful moments for me.
Is there a specific track from this great game that you're very proud of? Or, I mean, obviously you're proud of the whole thing, but is there a track that you're just like, oh, wow, thank you to the muses?
From, like, Tactical Breach Wizards, or?
Yeah.
I guess for, like, the game itself, just aside from the jazzy stuff, it was what was it called? Belly of the Beast. That was a good one, cool. Where I tapped into more of the hybrid side of, and that's where I guess I started to more find my voice and my niche, because I was still trying to figure out what the heck I was.
That's great.
Because as a trailer composer, it's very hard to break away from that when that's your bread and butter for so long.
Right.
You're stuck with that structure. You're stuck with that type of feel and whatnot. Even though there's many genres in trailer music, you're still stuck in that. So trying to break away from that was a big deal, and that track really helped.
Oh, congrats. Freya, what about you? What are you most proud of?
After many years in bands and releasing lots of records with them, I released my first solo album in 2023 called
Ooh.
Fruit. And there's a track on that was actually the single. It's called Fighter Jet. And I am so proud of that song. Like it actually, I went when I did the Dolby Atmos course, like to learn, I remixed that song in Dolby Atmos and it was such an amazing experience. But it's basically, like it feels like a sort of crystallized version of all the emotions that exist in me. There's like a delicacy to it, but this like fieriness. And it also taught me a lot as an engineer. I feel like I've been doing film music for 15 years, so I feel like so comfortable mixing in that kind of context. But I mixed my entire album. I was like, I have to do this because it's my baby and I know what the vision is and I don't really trust anyone else to do that. And actually mixing this song taught me so much because there was a lot that needed to go into it. And it's got this like crazy fun bass, like sort of percussive beat to it, but it's also really ethereal. And whenever I listen to it, it still makes me cry, which is like such a weird thing to say, but there's like this particular moment at the end that just like catches me every time because I know exactly what I was trying to do. And I feel like I really achieved it, which is just like the best feeling in the world. So I'm so proud of that song. Yeah, Fighter Jet.
Getting to that moment, did it take you a while to get there, or was it one of those
That
things
was
that
one of the
just like,
hardest songs.
yeah.
Yeah, it was really hard. Some of the songs came together and like I was doing this thing that I called Hour of Power. So at night I would like, I'm writing briefs during the day. So at night I would have like an hour to just do musical exploration. And then all of these tracks that I wrote ended up becoming the album. I hadn't intended to write it, but it just, to honor the songs, I was like, okay, I actually do need to finish this. So some of them came out like in one go in those Hour of Power things and I barely did anything to them. But this song took months to figure out. Like I had the first little section and then I was like, where does this want to go? Like it had this power to it, but it was contained and it needed to go somewhere and let it out. And so I had to like figure out how I was going to like find that trajectory. So that song actually took a while to like reveal itself to me. But I'm just so proud of it. And I had a violist and violinist and cellist come in and do some work on that. And it was just so beautiful to have these like really visceral strings as part of it because they're on the whole album, but this song in particular just was really, really special. So yeah, that one's a bit of a moment for me.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And Bryan, what about you?
That's so cool. Freya, I love your passion is palpable
Ah.
and inspiring. Thank you for sharing that with
Oh,
us.
thanks. That's so nice.
Yeah, I think for me, there's a scene from this anime inspired pilot called Gabriel and the Guardians that I did, where the character, he's a teenage angel and you're kind of getting introduced to his character and he's racing his like little cherubim, which is like a cartoony kind of angel cat thing. And they're racing and there's a scene that I was inspired from my childhood from Treasure Planet, the opening kind of cue where he's like racing in the spaceship sort of thing. And there's like the bit of a rock and orchestral hybrid by the great James Newton Howard is one of my deep inspirations as a composer. But I was able to tap into that in a very fun, nostalgic way and incorporate some styles I wasn't as familiar with like 80s synth kind of wave rock and stuff. So it was fun to collaborate with some live guitar, my buddy Kyle on guitar, and my friend Adrian on synths, and yeah, just kind of bring that action adventure orchestral synth vibe. So I'm definitely really proud of that track. It's called Paradem Chase, and it's just the front one on my website. The whole scene is there, but that was a ton of fun. And then I mean, yeah, there's a few. Like it was great to write the main theme for the last Guild Wars expansion, Janther Wilds. That was just a real treat to kind of work with some cool instrumentalists like Eric Ridval, who plays the nickel harpa in Norway, played on Rings of Power, and so like it was just such an honor to work with some cool vocalists and stuff. Makes it like brings the joy to collaboration like that. And then, but yeah, I'm excited for this latest expansion theme as well. I think it'll just be fun because a lot of times, I really do enjoy working with synths and sound design, but sometimes the orchestral stuff, when it's primarily orchestral, it's just a lot of fun to remember that still hits hard. It's a force of power, the orchestra.
Great. Before we wrap up, is there anything that anyone wants to shout out or just plug or anything that you want to get out there into the world besides obviously the new music and everything?
I mean, I'll go. I'm in Australia because, well, I'm here renewing my visa, but
Ooh.
I'm also here because I had a feature film that premiered last week at Melbourne International Film Festival. It's a documentary, and it's coming out on a broadcaster here on a streamer, Stan, in October. But I'm so proud of the music. It's a very dark film, but it's got a lot of resilience built into it. It's called Surviving Malka Leifer. So I hope that it'll end up screening in the US. I think we'll go to some documentary festivals there. But I just finished a feature that went to Tribeca, and then I'm here for this, and I'm just like
Nice.
delighted. I feel like things are moving. So it's been a busy couple of months, but I'll be back in LA soon. So
Yeah, you seem very happy.
I am happy.
Yeah.
I'm really happy with how things are going. I've been a
Yeah.
busy bee.
Yeah, well, sounds well deserved also.
Thank
Um,
you.
Robert or Brian, anything you want to shout out?
Oh, well, apart from the aforementioned, I'll give a shout out to an indie game that I contributed to the main theme and the cinematics. It's called Prim. It's a adventure game, a point and click adventure game in the style of Tim Burton meets Monkey Island. So black and white, creepy but cute. Very, very fun. It released
Cool.
last October. And yeah, I did the main theme and some other stuff with it. There was another amazing composer in Germany. It's a German indie game developer, and we connected. Actually, the first game I ever did was called Sidekick High. It was an adventure game jam back in 2017 or 2018. And so this guy, Jonas, went on to make a really cool point and click adventure game. So check out Prim on Steam or YouTube.
Robert, anything?
I can't really speak about it, unfortunately.
Ooh,
Bummer.
keeping us
Always
no.
exciting.
I know.
I know, no, that's leaving us on a cliffhanger.
It's good,
Great
it's good.
job, great job. Well, whatever that is, we look forward to it. I think that's it. I think that's all the time we have. So just want to thank you all again for sharing everything. It was really, really fun to talk to you and really inspiring. Yeah, just again, Brian, Freya, and Robert, congrats on everything. I hope everyone can check out their projects. And thanks everyone for watching and being here today.